In this unit, we're going to talk about rational expressions. So everything we look at is going to be fractions. And I can tell you from the college algebra class I'm teaching right now is that that's their biggest struggle is dealing with fractions. I would say they abnormally are a little bit lower on the side of dealing with fractions. So having a good understanding of this will really help you for that next class you take. Today you just want to talk about simplifying them. We'll also multiply them and divide them. I'm only going to write this out once, but as we simplify, we get to kind of cross stuff off. I want to make it clear why we can cross things off. What is the number that divides evenly into both 54 and 24? 6. And so I'm going to write this as 6 times 9 times x times x. Does everybody agree that that's what 54x squared could break down to? And then on the bottom, I'm going to write it as 6 times 4 times x. Now you don't have to do this every time. I'm just trying to show you. Notice I have a 6 over 6. I have an x over x. And what's left is 9 times x, and the bottom is left a 4. Why can I just cancel off the 6's? Because 6 divided by 6 is 1. So they don't just disappear. They don't make 0. They don't go away. It's 6 divided by 6 is 1. And x divided by x is 1. And if you take anything and multiply it by 1, you just get whatever that was. So that's why we can cross it off, is because it reduces to 1. And 1 times anything is itself. In the next example, I also have 8x squared times the quantity x minus 3, all divided by 4 times x minus 3. Notice I have an x minus 3 over an x minus 3. And so I get to reduce those to 1. Am I done? I can take a 4 out, and I get 2x squared. Here's where people start doing some voodoo math. People take 10 and divide it by 40 to get 1/2. They take 5 divided by 10 to get 1/2. They cross off the x's. They leave an x squared. They say, oh, I got 1 over 4x squared. And maybe that looks convincing to some people. But without a doubt, you can't do that. And you can't do that because if you look at the numerator, if you look at the problems up above, I don't cross things off until I write them as multiplication. See how there's multiplication there? See how there's multiplication all throughout there? The word for multiplication is factor. They mean the same. So what is the thing that you can factor out of the top or out of the numerator for letter C? 5. And you're left with x minus 4. I'm sorry if I sound challenged right now. My allergies are kicking up on me. Anybody else allergies bad today? I think the heater is kicking on, and so it's blowing some things that have collected over there. It's been a while since we've run the heat here, hasn't it? I think that's there's just some pollen coming through that got kind of lodged up during the fall. What can I factor on the bottom?
10.
A 10 and?
X.
And I'm left with x minus 4 as well. So this unit will be heavy on your ability to factor. Notice that the x minus 4's do reduce, and 5 over 10x, the top and bottom are both divisible by 5, so I have 1 over 2x. Pay very careful attention to letter D. This does factor as well. The top factors to 3 minus x and to 3 plus x. Notice I have the 3's first because the 9 is first. And 3 times 3 is positive 9. Negative x times x is negative x squared. This is over, and in the denominator, I have x minus 3 times x minus 2. Now, isn't the temptation to cross off the 3 minus x and the x minus 3? Wouldn't you like to cross those off? But the fact is they're not the same. Just like 5 minus 7, is that the same as 7 minus 5? They're really close, aren't they? So what we could do is we could factor something out. Does anybody know what we factor out to make this a positive x and that a negative 3? Factor out a negative. And I just factored out the 3 minus x. So when you take a negative out, instead of a negative x, it becomes positive x. And instead of a positive 3, it becomes minus 3. Now that I factored out the negative, I can see that these two are the same. They reduce to 1. And I'm left with a negative quantity 3 plus x in the top. In the bottom, I'm left with x minus 2. Okay? All right. Simplify. Now multiply. When we multiply fractions, for example, suppose you had 4 over 5 times 3 over 2. When you multiply fractions, you don't cross multiply, you multiply straight across. We get 12 over 10, and we simplify that to 5 over 6, okay? We spent some time in this class talking about multiplying fractions right at the very beginning. So when we multiply these, we don't cross multiply, but we do look to see if there's something across that could reduce. For example, does 3 over 9 reduce to what?
1 over 3.
Good. Does 4x over 2x reduce? The 4 over 2 reduces to 2, and the x over x reduces to 1. So we have 1/3 times 2. And once you reduce them, you can then go ahead and multiply. And I get 2 over 3. If you look at letter B, you can see ahead of time that the x plus 2's are going to reduce to 1. What else will reduce? 4 over 12 makes 1 over 3, so I have x minus 1 all over 3. For letter C, can I just cancel off the 3's and the x's right away? Maybe a 5 as well? That's kind of cute. I'll cancel out one of the x's as well. I get x on the bottom. What do you think? Can I do that? What do I have to do first?
You have to simplify, so like take out the greatest common factor.
Yeah, factor. Go ahead, see if you can do this one on your own by factoring this second piece. See if you can factor it and then see what's going to reduce. Try it and I'll go through it with you then. Oh, my allergies. Brenda, do you have a quick question? Long questions. All right, we'll wait about 10 minutes here. X plus 5 times 3x plus 1 times 3 times 3x plus 1. So I took a 3 out of the top, and the bottom I factored as the difference of 2 squares. The x plus 5's reduced, the 3x plus 1's reduced. And I got 3 over x minus 5. We all okay with that? Last one for letter D, then we'll move to the back side and we'll divide. Notice the top factors to x plus 3 times x minus 1. If you need a review of factoring, that's something that we're gonna need to sit down and go over together sometime before or after school, okay? The bottom factors to x minus 2 times x plus 1. Look at what I see off to the side. I see a 2 minus x. What should I factor out of the 2 minus x? I factor out a negative. So then it becomes a positive x and a minus 2. The bottom, I'm okay with the x plus 3. I can see it's going to cancel there. The x minus 2 would not have canceled if I didn't factor out the negative. X plus 3 is reduced. X minus 2 is reduced. And in the numerator, I have a negative quantity x minus 1 over the bottom, which is x plus 1.
Attention staff and students, we are now in a hold. If you are in the hallway, please report to the nearest classroom. Again, we are now in a hold.
We head to the back side. We never ever divide fractions. What do we do instead? Multiply by the reciprocal. I look to see if there's something that will reduce, and right away I see the 12 divided by the 3. That reduces to 4 over 1. Two x over 6x squared reduces to 1 over 3x. When I reduce those, I can now multiply. I get 4 over 3x. The next one is already factored. Sometimes to save space, people just write multiply and then they flip it instead of rewriting everything. If you do that, you can see that the x plus 1's reduce and the x minus 2's reduce. And I'm left with x times x plus 2. Try letter C on your own. Try letter C on your own. Okay, I multiply by the reciprocal. Notice that as you do that, we have the x plus 1's reduced and the x plus 3 is reduced. So I get x minus 1 times x minus 3. Last example. X plus 3 times x plus 1 in the top. I can see that clearly. How does the bottom factor? My two numbers have multiplied -8 and added 2. A positive 4 and a negative 2. And remember, we're going to flip this. So we're going to have a 2 minus x in the top, and we're going to have a 3x plus 3 in the bottom. Let's start with the bottom. What do we factor out of the bottom? We'll factor 3. And then I've got to factor a negative out of the top as well. Factor the negative out of the top. That way the x minus 2's do match up. X plus 1's reduce. If you're not careful, you're going to miss this 3 right here. Notice I still have a negative. I have an x plus 3. In the bottom, I have a 3. And I have x plus 4. We are going to continue on kind of with the same piece tomorrow. For right now, if you'd like to get started, you can turn to this part right here. We're kind of simplifying some of those expressions. Okay. You are going to be given time tomorrow, so don't feel like if you don't finish it, you have to bring it home.